All right. Hi guys, how are you doing? Happy Saturday to all of you. I'm so glad to see all of your little faces. So today, oh, well, I guess I should probably tell you who I am, just in case you don't know. Hi, my name is Sarah Ellis. I'm with Beadalon, and we're going to do a really fun project. This is an easy one, but the results are really, really beautiful. And so I'm really hoping that I will inspire you with today's project. So we're going to be putting together a wire wrapped bracelet, meaning we're just going to do some wire wrapped loops. But we're going to be using some of the Beadalon twisted artistic wire, which adds just a little extra texture visually and physically to the design. We're going to be using some interesting beads, and we're just going to put together a really fun bracelet. I don't think that anybody's going to have any problems with this. It's pretty straightforward, but like I said, the results are really, really beautiful. So visually at the end, you're going to come away with a piece that combines a lot of different textures and colors. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's go ahead and get started, and I'll tell you guys what we are using today. So let me put you down on the mat here, and we will get started. All right, so as far as our beads are concerned, we are using some semi-precious beads. I picked out this really beautiful double strand of the Unakite beads, and I believe that these are 8mm beads, and there are quite a bit on the card, which is fantastic. You can see I've already made a bracelet for a sample, but I still have a lot of beads left over, which is my favorite way to shop for beads. Just in case you're curious about how I like to do things. I love it when there's more than one strand of beads on a card. So I have picked out these guys. They have the beautiful greens and like that kind of terracotta color, which they're nice and smooth, but visually, again, they have that texture that we're really kind of mixing in the bracelet. And then we're going to mix in some crystal chunks. These are in clear. However, at Michael's, you can get these in a lot of different colors. So if clear is not really what you're feeling, you definitely could mix it up and pick out something different. We're only going to use a small section of these, maybe 3 of these. So you definitely will have leftovers with these as well. So you could certainly make, a matching necklace or earrings to go with your bracelet. And then last but not least, we are using some of these metal leaves, and I'm only going to be using 2 of these. So again, you're going to have lots of leftovers, but I just wanted to kind of bring in that nature feel to this. I know the green kind of does that already, but the leaves here definitely have that filigree texture. So even more texture going on, and it really just combines together to make a really interesting and pretty visually piece. And then our wire, like I was talking about, is our twisted artistic wire. And I have already pre-cut my pieces, but I'll kind of show you what it looks like. You guys, from Michael's, the spool is a little bit smaller than what I have here, but just to kind of show you what it looks like when you're looking at it before you've pulled it out. So twisted artistic wire is actually 3 strands of artistic wire that have been twisted together to give it this really fun, kind of different texture that is really unique to wire. And it comes in a bunch of different colors. We're using the tarnish resistant silver for our project, and I'm using 20 gauge for this. And then last but not least, I'm going to be using the Beadalon Findings Variety Pack. I love these. They are super convenient. They come with a lot of parts inside. You've got 2 different kinds of clasps and a lot of different jump rings, and you can just toss these in your bag. I know right now we're not necessarily doing a lot of traveling and beading while we're traveling, but eventually when we do get back to doing that, these are really handy to have. They don't take up a whole lot of space. They stay nice and closed, and it's kind of just like a one-stop shop for, all of the things that you're going to need to put things together. So always really handy to have these. So we will be using the jump rings and clasp from this guy. So let's get started. As far as tools are concerned, you're only going to need just your standard tools. So you're going to need a cutter tool, your chain nose pliers, some round nose pliers, and I always keep a pair of bent chain nose pliers around for when I'm doing my wrapped loops. You are also going to need a pair of nylon jaw pliers as well. When we get to the end of our bracelet project, I'm going to show you guys how to make a knotted head pin, and this tool is a must for that. So definitely have these, set these to the side. You're going to need those later, but not for the initial like building of the bracelet. Okay, so to get us started, you want to cut several pieces of the twisted artistic wire. And I always cut more than I actually need for this, but you're really only going to need like 3-inch pieces of this, and you're going to need as many pieces as beads that you're going to use. So for the sample bracelet, my sample bracelet is about 7.5 inches, which is pretty standard when it comes to bracelet sizing if you're going to be selling your bracelets. You can always add extension chains to this to make it longer, or you can shorten it up if you need to. But I've used 8 of the Unakite beads and then just a small section of those crystal chunks in the center. So all I need to get started is 9 pieces that are about 3 inches long of the twisted artistic wire. Okay, I'm not going to be using any jump rings in between the beads. We are going to create what is considered a rosary chain, where the beads are wire wrapped directly to each other. Okay, and we're going to do those in short sections. So we'll start with 4 and build our middle, and then do the final 4, and then add our little decorative elements at the end. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and cut my strand of my beads so that I can have those ready to use. And I'm going to just start with 4 beads, and I'm going to use one of my pieces of the artistic wire. So the first thing I like to do when I make my wrapped loops is I come in with my chain nose pliers. Some people do this with the round nose pliers. I just feel like I get a sharper bend in my wire if I use my chain nose pliers for this. Yes, 3-inch sections is all you're going to need. Mine's a little bit longer than 3 inches, but 3 inches is really all you're going to need for your wire wrapped sections. Okay, so I'm going to come down on that wire about 1.5 inches and grab that with my pliers, and I'm just going to give that wire a bend. So you're creating this backwards 7 shape. Okay, I'm going to ditch the chain nose pliers for a second, and I'm going to bring in my round nose pliers for this, and I'm just going to place it so that the wire is running between the barrels of the pliers. So I have a definite top and bottom barrel here. I'm going to take the wire and I'm going to go up and over the top barrel of the pliers. Okay, to create what kind of looks like a little shepherd's hook or a funny little bird, I guess, with this really long beak. But I've got to get this wire over here to the other side. I can't do that with this bottom barrel of the pliers in the way. So in order to do that, I'm just going to roll the pliers this direction. You don't necessarily have to take the wire off of the pliers to do that. It's just a simple open and closing movement. So now your bottom barrel of the pliers is now on the top. Okay, now I can take that wire over to the other side, and that's going to give me that closed loop. So when I take it off of the tool, this is what we've got. Okay, I'm going to put it back onto the round nose pliers, and now I'm going to use this section of wire here, and I'm going to wire wrap underneath the loop that we just made about 3 good wraps. And essentially what we've done is we have created a wrapped loop eye pin. Okay, I'm going to come in with my cutter tool, and I'm just going to trim off that excess wire. Okay, and now we're ready to add our bead to this. So I'm going to thread a bead onto the wire, and we're just going to repeat that process to create another wrapped loop on the other side of this. So that's really going to be pretty much all of the technique for this. It's really just going to be very repetitive for creating your wrapped loops. So if you are uncomfortable with your wrapped loops, this is going to be a great way to practice those. Okay, so same steps. I'm going to come in with my chain nose pliers. I'm grabbing the wire right where it is exiting the bead, and I'm going to give it a bend. And you have to bend over the top of those pliers. That's what's going to give you that space in between your loop and the bead to create your wire wraps. So don't bend directly over the top. Make sure that you're bending over your pliers when you are going to make that bend. Okay, you don't have to do any of the measuring. The tool is actually going to do that part for you. Okay, so now I'm going to come back in with my round nose pliers, just like we did with our first wrapped loop, holding it just like this. I'm going to take the wire up and over the top barrel of the pliers, and notice I'm not moving the tool at all. All I'm moving is the wire. Okay. Now I do have to get the bottom barrel out of the way. So I do have to move the tool. Okay. And now I'm going to take the wire over to close up our loop. I'm going to switch hands and wire wrap. And now we've got a wrapped loop on the top and the bottom of our bead. Okay, I'm going to come in with my cutter tool and trim off. And you can see I have a little extra since my my measurements for my wire were not quite exact. But if you stick with a good 3-inch piece of wire, you're not going to have nearly as much left over. Something else to keep in mind, and you can see when I go to cut, the twisted artistic wire, you can really see it here. You can see that there are in fact 3 pieces of artistic wire there. Keep that in mind when you're going in with your cutter tool. If it gives you a little bit of trouble, it may be that you have only snipped maybe 1 or 2 of those wires. So you just want to be cautious that you're actually trimming through all 3. If your cutter tool is nice and sharp, you're not going to have any problems. Mine is a little on the dull side, but in turn, it shows you can actually visually see those 3 strands of the artistic wire, which is kind of interesting. So, all right. And because I did have a little bit of trouble, you can see that there are some ends of that wire sticking up. I'm going to come in with my chain nose pliers and just very, very gently bite down on those with my chain nose pliers. That's going to tuck those little ends in and keep it all nice and clean so that those ends are not going to get caught on my clothing. Okay, so you just want to go slow with the twisted artistic wire, but I got to tell you, it's really worth it just because of the texture that it adds to the design. So not only do you have that visual interest from the bead, but you also have that beauty of the wire as well. So it really creates a lot visually. All right, so we're going to move on to the next bead, and I'm actually going to lower you guys down just a hair and adjust the lights here just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to pick up another cut section of my wire, and same steps. I'm going to come down on the wire about 1.5 inches. I'm going to give the wire a good bend, and I'm going to start that wrapped loop, meaning I'm going to go ahead and do the loop portion, but I'm not going to do the wire wraps yet. Okay, so the tail of the wire up and over the top barrel of the pliers, roll the pliers into the position so that I can get that wire over to the other side. And then I'm going to take it off of the tool. Since we're not going to use any jump rings in between our beads, I'm going to take the tail end of this that we're actually going to use to do our wire wraps, and I'm going to thread it through one of the wrapped loops that we've already made. So just take it, and it doesn't matter which one, just pick one, thread it through the loop, and then you just want to very gently snap those 2 loops together. Shouldn't take a lot of fuss to do that. It really will kind of happen on its own. Okay. All right, now this is where bent chain nose pliers come in really, really handy. I'm going to grab with my bent chain nose pliers, I'm going to grab that loop because now I can't get the round nose pliers back in to the loop that we made without distorting what we've already done. I want to keep that loop shape nice and round. So instead, I'm going to use my bent chain nose pliers to hold on to that. Now I can really get in here and I don't have to fight against the pliers, the tip of the pliers, to do the wire wrapping. Okay, so again, same thing. I'm just wire wrapping 3 wraps, and I do have a little bit of a tail here. I'm going to trim that off with my cutter, getting as close as you can, and then I'm going to thread on the next bead. Okay, so we are moving right along, making our chain. Okay, same steps to do a wrapped loop on the opposite end, grabbing the wire right where it is exiting the bead, going to bend the wire. That's going to give us the room that we need. I don't have to measure or anything. I let the tools do all of that for me. Come in with the round nose pliers. We're going to go up and over, roll the pliers out of the way, and take our wire over to the other side. Okay, and then we are going to wrap in the space between the loop and the top of the bead. Okay. And now we're ready to trim off, and we have 2 sections ready to go. And again, just go slow. I need to sharpen my cutter. I need to grab a different one. I haven't used this one in a while. That may be part of the problem, but just go slow. You can wiggle it back and forth if you need to as well to get in there and trim. And then just tidy up your ends with your chain nose pliers. That's probably the most important part, is making sure that you don't have any of those extra little pieces sticking out. It only takes a tiny little piece to get hung on your clothing and create a very bad day for you. So definitely want to tuck all those in. Don't want to get that caught. Okay. All right. Now moving right along, we're going to do number 4, same steps, grabbing the wire, bending the wire to make our backward 7. Okay. Putting down the chain nose pliers, coming in with the round nose pliers, holding everything still and only moving the wire up and over. Now we're going to roll the pliers to the correct position and take the wire over to the other side. Okay. Before we do the wire wraps, we want to pick up our chain that we've created and take the tail end of that wire, stick it through the loop, and then very gently wiggle those 2 loops together. Okay. Same steps, bent chain nose pliers, perfect for this job. Hold on with your chain nose pliers, your bent chain nose pliers, and do your wire wrap. Okay. Now we're ready to trim off and add our next bead. Okay. And we're just going to repeat. Chain nose pliers, bending the wire, round nose pliers coming in, up and over, roll the pliers, take the wire over. You really kind of work up a rhythm with this. I almost said pattern, but you really work up a rhythm with this once you kind of get the hang of it. And the twisted artistic wire is nice and soft. It's very malleable, so it's not gonna give you a hard time when it comes to doing your wire wrapped loops. It's really gonna kind of do exactly what you want it to do. So don't get frustrated with it. Take your time and really make that wire do exactly what you want. It's so soft, it doesn't take much coaxing to get it into the shape that you want. And it's also very forgiving. If your loops are not perfectly round, that's okay, because the twisted artistic wire really kind of helps to hide any of the imperfections that you might have in your wrapped loops. So you can kind of let yourself off the hook a little bit with your loops if they're not perfect. No problems there with the twisted wire. It really helps to hide all the things that you don't like. Okay. Now that time, I don't know if you noticed it or not, but that time I actually did it a little bit differently, and I kind of flipped the wire around. That's just another technique for making a wrapped loop. If you're more comfortable kind of flipping everything around like that, you definitely can do that. But I feel like if you're just getting started, it's really much better to just hold your tool still. And honestly, that just happens out of habit. I didn't exactly mean to do it that way, but it is just another way to make your wrapped loops. Okay. So we've wire wrapped directly to that one. Okay. And this is our number 4 bead. So after we get this one on, we're going to add some of those beautiful chunk crystals to this. So it really adds some different dimension and texture. All right. Threading our bead on. Again, chain nose pliers, bending the wire, taking the chain nose pliers away. We have the perfect amount of space to slide our round nose pliers right in there. We're going up and over, roll the pliers out of the way, and take the wire on over to the other side, and wire wrap. Okay, And we have one full side of our bracelet is ready. Now we're going to add in our centerpiece to this. So trim off and then just tidy up a little bit. Okay. All right, now I'm going to sit this one down for just a second, and we're going to go ahead and get our crystal pieces off of the strand here. So I'm going to take 3 of these just because I feel like that's a really good sized focal. If you don't like that much in the center, you can certainly do less, or you can make it even more if you want to. I'm going to go with the 3 chunks here. It makes up about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches at the most for your centerpiece. Definitely want to take that into consideration too when you are going for all of your measurements. Okay, so same thing, we're just going to treat it exactly the same way, but instead of just doing a single bead, we're going to do all 3 beads at once. So starting with our backward 7, round nose pliers, up and over, roll the pliers and take the wire over to the other side. Okay, taking it off of the tool, and I'm just going to take the tail end, slide it through one of the loops, and just kind of wiggle those together. Okay. Bent chain nose pliers coming in. And then when I hold my chain nose pliers, my bent chain nose pliers, when I'm working in this direction, you can see how I tuck the rest of the bracelet like into my hand up against the tool. Just keeps it from, you know, trying to wiggle into my work. So I hold it out of the way. Just one of those little things that it doesn't seem like a big deal until you're really fighting with the beads and they're working against you. So any of those little tips I definitely think are worth it, particularly if you're a beginner. There's nothing worse than having the piece that you're working on fight against you. It's a recipe for frustration for sure. So I'm just going to thread on my 3 chunks here. Okay. And we're just going to wire wrap again, just another loop. We're just going to treat 3 beads exactly the same way we would if it was just a single bead. Okay. So grabbing, bending, round nose pliers up and over, roll the pliers out of the way and take the wire over to the other side. Now, when you're working on this side, you don't have anywhere to tuck this, but you just let gravity take over and it will really help to hang all of the beads out of the way. It's gravity is a good thing when it comes to making your jewelry. Keep everything out of the way for you. All right, so there's our wraps loop. We're halfway there, guys. We just need a warmer of the green beads on the opposite side, and then we're going to put together a cute little dangle, some extra little fun to the end of this. And hopefully I'll show you a technique that you can use in a lot of different ways. Okay, so again, just kind of tidying up. And I need 4 more of the Unakite beads. So I'm going to slide those off. And we're just going to keep rock and rolling here. Okay. Round nose pliers. Up and over. Oh, okay. This is actually a really good learning opportunity here. So I forgot that we needed to attach right before we started our wire wraps, but I got ahead of myself and I started my wire wraps. That's okay, because this can just be the opposite end of that bead. So I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just going to treat this like this is the finished edge. Go ahead and trim off, and I'll use the loop that we're about to make to be the one that we attach. Okay, so slide your bead on, grab the wire. Okay, up and over, roll the pliers out of the way, and take the wire over. Now I need to take it and thread it on. So it was no problem. I just had to work a little bit backwards for that, and that's okay. And I actually pulled my loop out as well. And that's the great thing about the artistic wire, is that even if you pull your loop out, you just put it right back on the tool and tidy it up. Not a problem at all. Thread that through. Hook those two together. So your pieces of wire, again, need to be about 3 inches long each. Mine obviously are a bit longer than 3 inches. I always tend to cut more wire than what I need. But if you are, trying to save wire and have a less amount of waste as possible, 3 inches is going to get you. That's going to be the perfect amount. For the centerpiece, however, if you are going to go a little bit bigger with your centerpiece, remember, instead of just 1 bead, we used 3 here. You may want to cut yourself just one that is a little bit longer for that one. I would go maybe as much as 4 inches for that piece in particular. Okay. Okay. And if you're going to sell, I know I mentioned this before, but if you're going to be selling your jewelry, if you sell on a website or if you sell at craft fairs or anything like that, a 7.5-inch bracelet is really going to be the standard. However, we all know, all of us are very, very different in what 7.5-inch bracelet, how that fits on one person is not going to be how it fits on another person. When it comes to making adjustments on my jewelry, just from my own experience, I try not to alter the design so much, meaning I don't necessarily add or take away beads. If it's possible to adjust the length and the measurement of a piece by adding extra findings or extension chains. That way, all of the pieces, even if they are gonna go, if you need a 7.5-inch bracelet or an 8.5-inch bracelet, the design itself does not have to be changed. So you can keep that as your standard, and all of the bracelets that you create or necklaces or whatever it might be are all going to be exactly the same. So you don't find yourself using up more materials. You can always kind of count on, okay, it's going to take me 8 size 8 beads and 3, crystal chunks. And that part of the measurement never changes. Just make your adjustments with adding extra jump rings to the ends or extension chains or things like that. And that really kind of helps to keep your material costs down. You don't want to end up having to make a 10-inch or, well, a 9-inch, 10-inch bracelet and using up more of your beads and having to sell that bracelet at the same cost, right, that you would a 7-inch bracelet, even though they look the same, is kind of what I'm getting at. So just little tips like that when it comes to, when you're planning how you're going to sell your jewelry, how you're going to market your jewelry, you really want to take your materials into consideration and how you're going to make those adjustments for your customers, because not everybody's going to be a 7.5-inch, right? All right, we've got 2 beads left. Okay. Bent chain nose pliers, going to come in. Give yourself about 3 wire wraps. Okay, and then come in with your cutter tool. Thread on your bead and finish with another wrapped loop. Chain nose pliers, giving it a bend. We're going up and over, roll the pliers out of the way. Okay. And letting gravity kind of take over, which is a good thing because now we're working with a really long section of beads here. Okay, and now we're going to trim that off. And all right, for our last piece, chain nose pliers, giving it a bend. Round nose pliers, up and over. Okay, and we're going to take the tail, thread it through the loop, very gently slide those two together, bent chain nose pliers, and our wraps. Okay. And now we're going to come in with our cutter tool and add our last bead. That was a very long piece of wire there. You definitely do not need, you don't need all of that. 3 inches is going to be plenty for you. Okay. Giving it a good bend, round nose pliers, up and over, roll the pliers, and we're going to do the last little set of wraps here. Okay, let's trim that off, and then let's take a look just for a second, just because since we were talking about selling jewelry and we were talking about materials and how to, you know, make the most out of what you have. We've got a full-size bracelet here. Uh-oh, I actually put that one on. I put that one on the wrong end. That's okay. So let's trim this one off. I made a mistake. We did freeze for just a second. And when we froze, I got thrown off just a little bit. That's okay, because it doesn't hurt for you guys to see another wrapped loop here. But like I was saying, we're gonna take a look at what beads are left over, because we still have a lot left over, which means I could probably get a few more pieces of jewelry, if not another 2, maybe even 3 bracelets out of what I've got. So when it comes to shopping for beads, this is really a project that doesn't take up a lot of material, which means you're definitely going to be able to take your materials a lot further. It's a good value. It's a good value. You've got a beautiful piece, but you've still got enough to create more with. Right? So now, all right, up and over. And wire wrap. All right, now we're actually done with at least the length portion here. So let me trim this off and tidy this up a little bit. Okay. So our length is done. Okay. We've got our beautiful center. We have so much texture going on here. We've got a lot to look at, which I'm a huge fan of. Some people are not, and that's okay. But I like things to be visually interesting. This is not just a straightforward, you know, design. This would look beautiful with just regular artistic wire, but I feel like that twisted wire really kind of takes this design up to the next level. You've got the beautiful markings of the Unakite beads. You have this natural texture of the crystals, and then you add in that gorgeous texture I really can't think of another word to describe it. It is just additional texture of those 3 wires that are twisted together to create the twisted artistic wire. And then, as promised, just to take a look, I still have an entire strand plus 1 bead left over. So I know for sure that I can get at least 2 more bracelets out of this, or make matching earrings or a matching necklace. And the same is true with the crystals as well. Even though it seems to be a little bit shorter of a strand, I definitely have enough beads here to fill in or create additional pieces that match for a full set of jewelry, or if I needed more of these for, you know, a show, a booth, or your website, right? Okay, so we have the structure ready to go. Now we're going to talk about how we finish off. I'm going to just use a single jump ring on one end, but then on the other end, I'm going to use a combination of things here. So from the sample, you can see I have 2 jump rings that are connecting our clasp to the end, but then I have some extra things going on. I have more jump rings so that the leaves that we're going to add are going to be kind of staggered, so they're not going to lay directly next to each other. And then we've created a knotted head pin here for one of our additional Unakite beads. And that also just kind of adds a little extra element of fun to the end of your piece. So let's start with the wrap or the knotted head pin first, and then we'll put all of the rest of this together. Okay, so you're going to need another piece of your twisted artistic wire, and 3 inches is going to be plenty for this as well. Okay, now we're going to take the very tip of our round nose pliers and the very tip of the wire itself. Okay, so I'm going to grab that wire right at the very, very tip. Now, something that I want you to be aware of is, because the twisted artistic wire is 3 pieces of wire twisted together, you can accidentally smash it kind of flat. We don't want to do that. So when you're holding the tip of that wire in your round nose pliers, don't be cranking down on it. Don't grip it too hard. You want to be just very gentle with it. And you want to roll the wire around the tip of the round nose pliers 1 entire revolution. Okay, then we're going to go a second time directly underneath what we just did. Okay, and then you want to stop where you see where the cut end of that wire is. Okay, so basically what we've done is we've created a coil of 2 wraps around our round nose pliers. Okay, before we take this off of the tool, I want you to hold your pliers so that they're running from left to right in front of you. Okay, take the tail end of this wire and bend it underneath those coils. That's the one step that I think gets mixed up the very most often when it comes to creating a knotted head pin, because your inclination is to bend the wire the opposite direction, not underneath, but you definitely want to go underneath those coils. Okay, now take it off of the tool. You've got your loop here, right, of the 2 coils that you created. Hold that in one hand. Now take the tail end of the wire and bend it back and stick the tail through those 2 loops that you just made. So what we've got here is just kind of a little lasso shape, or it looks kind of like a speech bubble in like your comic books, but it definitely looks like a lasso. That's the one that I feel like most people can identify with. That's what you're looking at. Okay, you want to pull that just a little bit, so you've got about an inch tail here. Now remember, we talked about the nylon jaw pliers. This is where they come in. This is a very, very important. You want to grab the wire with your nylon jaw pliers so that the loops, the 2 little coils that you made, are sitting right up against the edge of the nylon on those pliers. Okay, you don't want there to be any wiggle room there. You want it to be nice and close. Again, don't squeeze, because you'll flatten the twisted artistic wire. You just want to hold it in there. Okay, now take another pair of pliers. I like to use my bent chain nose pliers for this, but it's your preference. Grab the tail end of the wire and pull. And as you pull, you're going to pull the length of that wire through the coil. And what you've created is a little knot in the end of your wire, which is really kind of cool looking with the texture of the twisted artistic wire. So you can do this technique with regular wire, you know, your artistic wires that are not twisted, or your German style wire, and it is beautiful. It is just extra beautiful in my opinion with the twisted artistic wire because of all that texture. So yeah, you make a little rosette shape. And when you do it that way, your wire is actually coming up from the center, right? Because you've tied an actual knot instead of just coiling around and then bending the wire. This is going to center up the wire more like a real head pin would be. Okay. So now we have a place to take our last bead here and drop it down, and it's going to sit right up against that knot. Okay, and we're just going to do a wrapped loop, and we're not going to add it to anything here. We're going to just leave it as it is because we're going to use some jump rings to attach this. Okay, so up and over, roll the pliers, take the wire over, and then wire wrap, and we're going to trim that off. Okay. All right, and we're going to tidy that up just a little bit. Okay, now we're going to get our leaves here, and we'll go ahead and put those on the jump rings that they need to be attached to. The wire that we were using for our project is twisted artistic wire, and we were using 20 gauge in tarnish resistant silver for this. Just a reminder for anybody who may just now be joining us. Okay, so I'm going to open up my cute little Findings variety pack here and get out several jump rings for this. And just kind of sit these out here so that we can use them. So the very first thing I want to do is I want to put our jump rings on the ends here, not to get confused with everything else, because it is going to take a few jump rings to attach these things. But let's start with our basics here, which is just attaching, number one, our clasp. So I'm going to take one of our 6mm jump rings and I'm going to open that up. I'm going to take 2 pairs of pliers. I'm holding the jump ring on either side, and you can see the opening of that jump ring is right up here in the middle. Okay. And I'm going to hold 1 pair of pliers still, and I'm going to use my dominant hand to twist to open the jump ring. Okay. Don't ever pull your jump rings apart. You'll never get them back into that round shape. You just want to very carefully twist them open. It's like a walking motion. Okay, now we're going to thread that on to one end of our bracelet. Before I close that jump ring, I'm going to go ahead and thread on our lobster clasp. That was part of our Findings pack. And now same thing, to close that jump ring, I'm just going to walk it closed. So I'm holding it still on one side and only using one side, 1 pair of pliers to do the work for me. Okay, so we've got our clasp on one end. Okay, now for the opposite end, we do have a little bit more going on. So we actually, well, it looks like I put the clasp on the end with all of the things here. That's okay. Either side is going to be just fine. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and make our little jump ring that's going to go in between here. So I'm going to take 2 jump rings and attach those to one of our leaves. Now, I'm using extra jump rings on one of them so that when they are hanging, they're tiered. They're not going to be hanging right on top of each other. I want it to be absolutely clear that I have 2 leaves here. Okay, so I'm going to take a jump ring and attach to our other one. Okay, so one of the leaves has 2 jump rings, one of them only has 1. Okay. Additionally, I'm going to add a jump ring to our dangle bead here. That's the one that's on the knot. And close that back. Okay, now I'm going to use a single jump ring to attach all of these together. And I may move that lobster clasp out of from one end to the other. I think I'll like it better on this end. I'll show you what I mean. So again, I'm just going to open another jump ring, okay? And I'm going to thread on all of these pieces. So there's the leaf with the 2 jump rings. This is the leaf with the single jump ring. You can see how those are going to hang really pretty. And then I'm going to thread on our Unakite bead. Okay. Now, before I close this, I want to attach this to the end of our bracelet. Now, this is not where our clasp is going to attach. This is just a extra jump ring that has all of our fun things hanging from it. Okay. We need an additional jump ring. Just so that when you go to open and close your clasp, you're not going to be fighting against all of your charms and fun things that you have hanging here. And you've got a free jump ring so that it makes it a little bit easier. Now, in the original piece, this was the end where I put my lobster clasp. It's not really going to make that much of a difference. So we'll go ahead and close this one and we'll attach our clasp to it, just like we would if we were wearing our bracelet. And there you go. So you have a finished piece that has a ton to look at. There's a lot going on here, a lot of different elements. You have all of the earthiness of the greens and the natural semi-precious gemstone beads. You've got your leaves here, just in case anybody was, wondering if we had spring on the brain. We definitely have, we've definitely debunked that mystery. I definitely have spring on the brain. I don't know about you all. It's snowing here, so I'm looking ahead to warmer weather. But you've got a stunning piece with a lot of different textures and a lot of different things going on here, a lot of elements that you may not necessarily think to put together. But when you're looking at making pieces that are unique and one of a kind, I encourage you to kind of look at beads that maybe you wouldn't normally put together. A lot of people wouldn't combine necessarily their big crystal chunks with round, smooth, shiny beads, but I feel like it works. And then the addition of that texture from the wire is it's just a whole nother element to it visually. So I hope you've enjoyed this project. I'm going to turn you guys around and we'll say our goodbyes. And I will let you guys go on to do your own creating. I hope you have enjoyed. Hold it up for you so you can see it this way. Again, you can really see those colors now that it's not up against that blue from the bead mat. But I hope I have inspired you and showed you at least one technique that maybe you are willing to go and try. That is it. Thank you so much for joining me. It has been a wonderful class and I appreciate you guys so much. Enjoy. Have a great time creating, you guys. Bye, guys.